So Mufti Abdullah, what advice would you give to a Muslim person who is in a relationship with a non-Muslim? And maybe if that non-Muslim has some interest in converting to Islam, what advice would you give them?
Okay, so the first thing that I would say, and this is very, very important, is that they should not lead them on. So the Muslim should not lead the non-Muslim on. I mean, that's a general case anyway, but especially in this situation, because you're doing two things wrong. Number one, you're leading someone else on, and number two is you might push them away from Islam. So that's the first thing. Number two is, I would say that if someone is interested in Islam, let them accept Islam on their own terms and when they want to, not because they want to get married to you. If someone is accepting Islam just to get married to someone else, those marriages are very, very problematic. And obviously that's an issue, right? When someone accepts Islam for the sole intention of getting married to someone so they can become quote unquote halal in the eyes of Sharia, that's problematic, very problematic. So that is something that should definitely not be done, where the other person becomes a Muslim just to marry you. And number three is, for relationships in general, this is a general guide that in Islam, relationships are sacred, and there's a certain way to get into a relationship, and that certain way and certain method is nikah. And the Prophet ﷺ and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put procedures in place to do that. Unfortunately, because a lot of us, we grew up in the West, and because the West has so much influence over the world, the influence and the idea of dating has become so common, especially within Muslim circles. You have halal dating. I don't even know what that means. There's no such thing as halal dating. You can't do halal and dating at the same time. Having dating before marriage is obviously not permissible. So how do you go about it in that situation? And that's where the Islamic perspective on marriage and how to find a spouse and how to go about that situation comes in. If you like someone, get your families involved, get both families involved early on. And I also want to point out that, they say that dating someone, you have to get to know someone before you get married, and you have to get to know someone, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to date them. Getting to know someone doesn't necessarily mean that, hey, what's your favorite color, and do you like strawberries or do you like bananas? Like, these are things that are not relevant to the marriage. You have to think about compatibility itself. What is compatible? How are you two compatible? And you have to think about high-level items. If dating, where the haram dating, if dating was actually beneficial, then 50% of marriages across the world would not end up in divorce. And especially in America, they would not end up in divorce, because that's literally the culture here, where everyone dates for sometimes many, many years before marriage, sometimes even 20, 30 years. They're dating and they're getting to know each other. How do you not get to know someone within that time frame? And then later on, 50% of those marriages end up in divorce. So dating is obviously not a way to go about relationships, and the actual way to go about relationships is the Islamic way, where you get both families involved from the beginning, and you don't let that relationship marinate in a haram way for too long.